Well, hello everyone. Hopefully that intro went smoothly. I do apologise. I had some little bit of teething problems trying to get the streaming software to work then, but hopefully we're up and live. You're very welcome. My name's Tom, and this is the Golden Goal Fantasy Football Podcast. And thankfully, I am joined by my good mate Sam. How are you doing, mate? How are you getting on? Excited for the World Cup?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Don't say thankfully, mate. Too much praise there. Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm getting a bit of a buzz on, like I said to you earlier today. Like I've had nothing, no, like I think like a lot of people. I think it's just because of how close it is to the Premier League season. I think, and obviously a few other matters as well that that people have issues with, but. I think getting closer now. Yeah, the buzz is coming, mate, and I'm looking forward to getting stuck into it. So, yeah, what about yourself?
Yeah, likewise. I think I'm only gonna because I know we do Sky and Fan Team on this channel, but me personally, and it's nothing against Fan Team. I just prefer the rule set of the Sky game. I think I'll just play the Sky game and try and relax a bit during the tournament. But I think get up some content and play some Sky. I think
Yeah,
that'd be good.
that's my plan, mate. I think I said to you, didn't I, a few weeks ago, I was going to probably not do Fan Team, and again, nothing against it. I absolutely love it. I'm looking forward to the second half of the season on the Premier League stuff. But like you said, take the stress away a little bit and just have the format that we all sort of came to first, which is Sky. And as I said, looking forward to it. I love the format on Sky. So yeah, it's a nice little bonus they've decided to do a World Cup version for us, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It was quite a surprise, and well, I think like most avid players, I was a little bit worried that they were going to drop the game for next season. But given that they've
Yeah,
spent, well, I don't know how much they spent making this international game because it's already had a few teething problems, hasn't it? But yeah, they seem to have done a good job in the whole getting it up, and it gives me a bit of hope that the Sky game is going to continue. So yeah, hopefully that's the case anyway because I really enjoy it.
same for me, mate. I think it's sort of the one that I really kind of fell in love with, as so to speak, on the fantasy front. And yeah, it's just the format's great. I think they've finally added some players, haven't they? Like today to
I think
like
like half the
Ecuador, or
Ecuadorian
whatever.
squad were missing or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which is reassuring. I said I've had a little play around and built. Although we're not doing any of our drafts today, I have built an early draft to see. It looks like just from first jumping, you can build a really nice side, can't you? It's quite generous.
Yeah, and like Sam said, we're not going to show any drafts in this one, but definitely going to go through some players we like the look of. But we've had a few Twitter questions about cheap enablers, but I genuinely don't think you need any. I think you can build a team
No.
for over 7 million per player and be very happy with it. That's certainly how I've
Well, if
been
you
going
saw
anyway.
Dave Simple Goals tweet yesterday about it, like obviously people that don't know, Dave came second last year in Sky, and he's like, judging by my team I've just picked on Sky, I'm going to win the game. And then all the comments underneath were like, yeah, same as me. And you obviously shot me your draft earlier, or when he first drafts, and vice versa. And you're right, you don't really need any enablers. It's like the only thing you kind of, by the looks of it, you need to do is like select the slightly lower premium rather than the higher premium player, which is pretty. It's cool, but obviously it levels the playing field somewhat, doesn't it? So, but what I just love about Sky, mate, is those individual captaincy days. I think that's just
It makes every game
because
worth
there's some
watching, doesn't it?
really nice, there's some real plum fixtures for players on the same day, and so straight away people are going to be like, "No, I'm going Messi. Actually, I'm going to go Mbappe." So it's going to be those decisions straight away. So although we could see high quality teams with all the money being spent, I think we're going to see some like different strategies and stuff, which is exactly what we want. It's a short format game, isn't it? So I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, I think the format of this one will try and keep it more of an introduction to the game, and identifying some of the best picks that we think there are, rather than sharing a draft. I think come Friday, if you're free, mate, we can do another stream sort of Friday afternoon, evening of our first draft together, to give people a bit of an idea as to who we're picking. But yeah, going to try and keep this one as a bit of an introduction to the game, go through the rules, some of the World Cup sort of nuances, and then have a look at some of the best picks that some bonus points, potential players, all the Sky goodness that you know and
Yeah.
love, really.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'd love, yeah, it'd be great to go through like first draft. And I think we've said this before, when we come on the pods and do this, we're accountable to each other, and we generally pick a better team as a result because we're going over it on the pod. So makes total sense for before kind of kick off on the Sunday or whatever.
Yeah, and
Um,
I must
see
admit,
where we're
I
at.
I never call myself a football expert or anything, but my research into international football has been limited to really a couple of days because my head's just been in Premier League right up until the weekend. So I've really only spent the last couple of days doing some proper research. So I may get some things wrong here, which I'm sure people in the chat can correct me on, but I'll do my best.
Well, I was going to say the same, mate. I've done literally a couple of days myself for the same reason. I think, like in terms of more thorough research, I think by Friday, like on the players and stuff that I certainly go for in my first draft, will have a much better understanding. Exactly the same as you. But that's the thing with this, isn't it? We've literally just come off Prem. Players have only arrived today. If it was in the summer, they'd be there already. So it's like, it's it's not so. It's just as difficult on the fantasy front as well, where you've got to switch from Prem to World Cup, and often you want a little day or two in between just to reset your head. So I think everyone will be understanding, mate. I don't think there's a great deal of content out there at the moment, and I think a little introductory one, just as much for myself as everyone, will be really beneficial.
Right, so the first little screen I've got is just to talk through some of the rules. I think one of the key ones to do with Sky that's not on this screen, as you mentioned it earlier, is that every day there is a game of football, you get to pick a captain. That's one of the good things about the Sky game compared to other fantasy football games. And then there are some other nuances in terms of transfers in rules and stuff. So first up being the prize money. So first place in this World Cup game gets £10,000 in cash. Second place is 1,000 and third place is 500. I think that's a pretty healthy prize pool for the length of the game. I've got to be honest.
It's a nice little incentive. Will anyone win it that we know? Maybe, but the fact that something just fantasy running over the World Cup's just great, isn't it? So any cash is a Brucey bonus, and I think you're right, mate. 10k for the winner, brilliant.
And speaking of cash as well, one of the better things about the Sky game is the paid mini leagues, and the fact that Sky Bet take the money for you. So you pay to enter a league, Sky Bet will hold the money and then pay out to a winner at the end. So you don't have to entrust someone that you don't necessarily trust with your money. You can just give it to Sky Bet, know that it's secure, and will be paid out fairly at the end. So that's a really good thing to note about their mini leagues.
Have we got that on the World Cup as well?
I'm pretty sure there are paid mini leagues in the World Cup. Yeah,
I think we've got for anyone that's interested, we've got the free one, haven't we?
I'll show that at the end. Yeah, we've got a free mini league on. It's on our Twitter, and we'll show it now. We'll show it.
Maybe if there's interest, mate, and we can do it. Could set up a little golden goal kind of entry fee one as well for some cash, because as you said, there's only 3 kind of prizes there, so it might give the opportunity for cash to be made a little bit easier than the whole thing.
Yeah, let us know in there, because we've got the chat open. Let us know in the chat if you'd fancy joining that. We wouldn't make it like a high roller thing. I don't know the maximum you can make as a buy-in, but we do like.
I'll have a look whilst you're going through that, mate. I'll let you know.
Cool. And then
someone might know already on the chat anyway.
And then just on the transfers, so it looks like we get 3 transfers per game round, which I think gives you 20. What it says it there, it gives you 21 over the course of the tournament. And then you get an overhaul upon the completion of the group stages. And then, you get to use that right up until the first game of the round of 16. And then it's got the dates there. But actually, there's like the overhaul lasts less than a day. So it looks like the overhaul is, what's that? Like 20 hours in total. So from the 7 p.m. on the 2nd of December till 3 p.m. on the 3rd of December. So we're going to be going mad with transfers on the evening of the 2nd then, by the sounds of it. But that's the fun of the game, isn't it?
Yes, mate. Just to backtrack quickly, we can do the normal paid league stuff. So I'll get one set up, guys, and get that tweeted out and stuff. I think it'd be a nice addition. I think lots of people would be keen for that. I think if you're happy, Tom, I think £5 entry fee sounds reasonable, but at least gives a little bit of decent prize money, and we could go 1, 2, 3, and 4 maybe, or 1, 2, and 3, and go from there.
Yeah, be happy with that.
Cool. I'll get that one done tonight, ready for I'll tweet it out literally this evening.
And then another nuance of the Sky game as well, for those that might play FPL or other formats, is the point scoring is slightly different. So like most most fantasy games, you get points for appearances, scoring goals. You get more points for a midfielder scoring a goal than a striker and defender, etc., etc. Minus points for own goals and yellow cards and red cards. I don't think those are particularly surprising. But when it comes to Sky, there is a really interesting way of scoring bonus points as well. So for for completing 4 tackles, you get 2 points. For 60 passes, you get 2 points. And then for 2 shots on target, you get 2. And then there's a second tier of bonus. So for a goalkeeper making 5+ saves, you get 3 points. 5 tackles is worth 3 points. 70 passes, 3 points. And the same with 3 shots on target. And it really makes the game really interesting. And there's a very good website, FF Stuff. A good guy in the community. I can't remember his real name, but he goes by the alias of Frank. There's a live tracker. I think it might be Mike is his actual name. Yeah. But yeah, he's an absolute legend. And on his website, there's a live passing, tackle, and shots count. So you can sit there with your phone open, watching how many passes and tackles all your players have made. I know I do that quite regularly on the weekend of Premier League games, and I imagine I'll be doing the same during the World Cup as well.
It's always on my Safari, so I like go on Safari on my phone, and it'll be like ffstuff.co.uk, like midweek or in work or whatever. So I'm exactly the same, mate. It's constantly loaded up.
But yeah, that's it for the Sky game, really. And like we said, that 2 sort of nuances really compared to FPL are a limited number of transfers, a captain every day, and then a slightly different bonus point system. I'd say those are the key differences. And there's no bench either. There's no bench, so you pick 11 players that really they should be starting. You don't really want to be taking risks on players that don't start in Sky.
And obviously no kind of safety net either, is there, for fan team guys or anything like that? It's just someone doesn't play, you don't get any points. I'm sure everyone listening is engaged Sky players anyway, but worth going over for sure.
Just do a little catch up with the chat as well. So we've got FPL Sparta in. Hello, mate. You've pretty much joined every single live stream I've ever done. So really appreciate your support, mate. Good to see Brownie in here as well. Hello, mate. A few messages from Manchester United saying he's playing all 4 formats. He's got, 15 entries in fan team it says he's doing. And he's won the Dream Team format in the 2018 World Cup, apparently. So well done to you for that, mate. Matt SkyFF says hello. Manchester just trying to convince us to play fan team there as well.
It's really funny. I'm just sitting here thinking I probably will get pulled in for at least a team last minute.
I think
I said to you, Tom, I did win a little bit of money on the half season. Nothing crazy, but like 40 something pounds or whatever. It's like all right season. So I might stick a little bit of that into a World Cup team. It does only come around every 4 years, so. And the fan team format is great. Like we both had a good one on the Euros, didn't we, mate? And that's what really got us going on the fan team PL game. So,
and I know it's 18 plus in gambling, etc. But I'm definitely not a sports bettor, and I'm not entirely against gambling, but I don't do much of it myself. But I was fortunate enough to win a free entry for the Euros, and I've just reinvested my winnings from there. I've not actually put any money of my own into it. And I know this is Sky, but Fanteam will definitely hold some competitions for free entries. So if you keep an eye on their Twitter, just put your I think they ask for like your team ID, and they select someone at random. So
yeah, I'll be the same actually, Tom. Like what one off last season, just reinvested it into this year, and yeah, it's a good format.
Oh, and Manchester is asking for some dark chocolate hobnobs if we're doing a biscuit prize.
Oh yeah, I did say to Dan on. Yeah, I said that to Dan, so yeah, you can hold me accountable. I will get him sent out. Saying that, with the cost of living, might have to be
Lidl.
No, we can go with whatever you want. So if you win it, mate, you can have go hard as you want on any biscuit that I can purchase in any of our big stores.
And next up, so that goes through the rules. To be honest, I just wanted to do a bit of an introduction to the competition itself. I've got the groups on my screen at the moment, mate.
Mate, really, I'm looking forward to going through it. Like, that's what gets me excited.
Do you want to? Should we just go each take a group and talk through it? Are you happy just to have a look at Group A based on what you've so far?
You stitched me
have
up.
I stitched you up? Have I?
No, So I'm sure, like many people, don't really know too much about Qatar, other than the fact that the home nations usually do all right. And you think because the country that it is, I don't think I've ever watched them. I don't know about you, Tom, but I don't think I've watched them. But I can imagine, and I'll probably say this now, it wouldn't be a fixture where you look at and go, that's going to be a clean sheet, like a wipe over for the opposition. So, looking at that, I know that we'll come to the fixtures later on, but um, again, I'll probably have some more information maybe on Friday, but it's certainly not a team that I'm looking at and going, they're going to be rubbish because they're going to be home nation, blah, 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 blah. They'll probably put up a good fight. So, yeah, obviously like the look of Netherlands in that group. I think that's fairly obvious. Don't know too much about Ecuador again. I'm imagining that they're not overly like good. And then Senegal, obviously we know Senegal are a half decent team. Have you got any thoughts on that group there? I think that's actually quite tricky.
Yeah, I've got a similar view to you, really. Remembering, because obviously Russia had the World Cup last time round, and they're probably slightly better than Qatar on paper, but they really turned up at that tournament, didn't they? They played some really good stuff, and I think they took a few big scalps from memory. And yeah, completely agree with you on Qatar. I think, yeah, my view is they will just be quite defensive and try and break teams down on the counter, but that doesn't mean that they can't win games. We know that international football. There are going to be some high-scoring games in this World Cup, but a lot of the time, World Cup games are quite cagey. So I would imagine Qatar are going to look to sit back quite a bit and defend and make it quite difficult to beat them. So, yeah, captaining players against Qatar, etc. You may well bank on a clean sheet for your team, but not necessarily many goals, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, Senegal, we know they're a good side. Look what they've done in the last couple of years. What's we know that the fitness state of what's his name?
Mane. I think that
is kind of.
I think that's integral to their team, isn't it? I don't think anyone can deny that. And I'm not entirely sure what it is at the moment. Someone in the chat might be able to help there.
It's witch doctor time, mate. That's where he's at. It is. They're using. They're pretty much going down the kind of natural remedies, just trying to get him in whatever shape, ready to play. So from like a Mane perspective, if we just, this is my early thoughts. I know there's a Friday captaincy and I don't really have an answer yet. I know there's a few thought processes flying around. I don't know what I'm going to do on that yet. But my early thoughts are maybe avoid a majority of the teams there, maybe accept a couple of players from the Netherlands, who I think will do a good tournament.
I absolutely agree with you.
I think from a knowledge perspective, that's a tricky group, right?
Sorry to drop you in it, mate.
No, that's fine, mate. I think lots of people will be in that boat. I know there'll be definitely some people out there that would have had a look. And again, Friday, I think I'll have a clearer understanding of how I want to attack it involving that group.
One thing I will say is a good friend of ours in the community who's helped us a little bit on the podcast with some graphics in the past. His Twitter handle, I think, is FFBobby. His pinned tweet at the moment is a thread with a simple spreadsheet view of each of the international teams in the World Cup. One thing you've got to bring into account, though, is that there isn't data available for every team. So I think like the Qatari tackle bonus stats are not really that well known. So I think he might be missing a few, but all the key stats for Sky are in that thread. So the top tacklers for each team, top shots, passing, top scorers, penalty takers, etc. They're all on that thread. So if you wanted, the quickest way possible of learning the information for Sky about these teams, just go on his Twitter. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and he's done exactly what you said, just as good information as you can possibly get. The caveat I would say to that, Tom, and I saw this in a thread earlier, is lots of this data is based off like either subpar opposition, friendlies, or stuff like. It's not, obviously we know our quota in the Premier League is Premier League versus Premier League, whereas I think some of this is like, again, I was having a look this morning and yesterday at some previous fixtures and actually finding teams that have played some good quality opposition can sometimes be a struggle. So I guess some of the statistics you have to take with a little bit of pinch of salt based off who they've played and what was riding on that particular game as well. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. And then I'll try not to spend too long on these groups, but it's just interesting to go through them, isn't it, and give our thoughts. So Group B being, of course, England, Iran, the USA and Wales. I've got to say, I think it's really, really difficult to call this group as well. Obviously, England are the heavy favourites to win the group, and they should win the group. But we all know what England can be like. I think the USA, well, all three of those teams will give England a good game, with England trying to win that group. I've heard Iran are pretty good, pretty solid defensively, and they've got some exciting attacking players, so they're definitely not a pushover. I think the USA, they might be missing a few there might be a few gaps in their team, but I think looking at their starting 11, they've got a number of recognisable names from the Premier League, and Pulisic he turns into a different player for the USA, so I think he's one to watch, I think, for the World Cup and maybe for your Sky team. And then we all know Wales, they're just on riding a high of international football at the moment, with the likes of Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey, etc., just playing out of their skin for them. So, yeah, I think that's a tricky group for England. And players I'd pick, I think I probably definitely have some England players in my Sky team. Like I said, I like the look of Pulisic for the USA, just the talisman figure that's on penalties. And I'd probably say the same for Gareth Bale as well. But I think he's a forward in Sky from memory.
Yeah, he is. I think Aaron Ramsey's a really good shout. He always turns it on for Wales. We were talking before we came on air, guys, and we were saying, like, looking at just drafts and stuff and just saying, like, the talisman of each team is really, really, really critical and crucial. And we referred back to the Euros when David Alaba, like, for Austria, and we all, like, went for him in the fan team one, and he was like, he is their best player, obviously, or one of their best players, and still managed to produce the goods. And I think Aaron Ramsey and Gareth Bale are both prime at that for Wales, and like what you said, Tom, about Pulisic as well. But then that lends me to think, like, my personal thinking on this is, and again, I was looking at a few threads earlier, not that I needed to see the threads to know that England in group stages more recently under Gareth Southgate have been very, very good defensively. I don't know what we conceded in the Euros. Was it 1 in the 4, or was it none? 0-0 Scotland.
I literally don't think we conceded a single goal in the group
2-0
stages.
1 or 2-0 against Croatia, I think. And I can't remember who the other group game was, but yeah.
The Euros has sort of been erased from my memory, mate, but I know that we had literally the best defensive record in the Euros. I think throughout the whole tournament, even on the run to the final, we were the best defence, so I think that's quite telling. Obviously, recently, it's been a bit different, but the Euros, if that's anything to go by.
I just have this feeling we won't be overly exciting, but I just think that the players and then Gareth have enough experience to know what to do in these group stages, and I think we will ride out a couple of cleans. I don't think it's going to be 5s and 6-0s, but I think there'll be some low scoring, not comfortable, but low scoring wins there with minimal goals conceded personally. And I'm not massively biased towards England. I don't think we'll meet our match round 16 or quarters personally, and go out.
I can't remember if Gareth Southgate was quoted saying this, or this was something a pundit had said, but he was talking about the time that you want your team to peak during a tournament, and it's definitely not during the group stages, and that's exactly what we saw at the Euros. I think with the likes of Harry Kane as well, like I think he went through the whole group stage without a goal, didn't he? He may have got one in the last game or something, and then he turned it on in the knockouts, and I think that's exactly what England will do.
I don't think he scored in the groups. Again, someone will probably remember. I can't remember who the third game was, which is really annoying me. But then he started picking the goals up. And that's how I think he'll play. I think it will be quite like conservative. But then, Tom, you just sometimes we can overanalyze this. Look at the three teams: USA, Wales, and Iran. It's quite a tidy group. You look at the other groups and you're thinking, well, like defensively anyway. Like I think a lot of people will be on Kane because he's plum captain for that Iran game, but like 1 or 2 England kind of defensive picks I'm just not really against at all. I think like Trippier, he's proved he's got multiple routes to points in fantasy this season. He's playing really well. Like you said, I saw you saying on Twitter earlier, I think he's nailed. I'll be happy for like Luke Shaw, usually plays quite well for England. Jordan Pickford usually plays quite well for England. So I do think there's some value, at least in those group stages, in picking some England players. But I do like Ramsey, Bale, and you've said Pulisic. And if you want to go with I don't think many will be on Iran players. Do you? No need for captaincy.
No, I don't think so.
No, so yeah. So I think that's a good group for England relative to what else I've looked at the other groups, which we'll obviously go through.
Yeah, and just conscious of time, mate. Do you want to take Group C quickly?
Yeah, so Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, Poland. Again, I think looking at the sides, I think Argentina should win this. Should win this group. Got some good talent as well. Obviously, we know the key names. And then really, it's a battle for second place. I think. Have you got any thoughts, Tom, on on Poland, Mexico, Saudi Arabia at all?
I think Poland have, well, obviously they've got one of the most dangerous strikers in the world in their team in Lewandowski. I remember quite a few owned him during the Euros, expecting him to do quite well, and he was terrible. Well, not him being terrible, but I just
Poland
think,
were terrible.
yeah, Poland themselves were terrible. So it's just one to consider, because I think in game week 2, although we've not got the fixtures to show, I think there's a game against Saudi Arabia where you could captain Lewandowski. I think I'll be staying clear of him based on that performance at the Euros. That's the only evidence I've got, but it would put me off, I think, for this time round.
Yeah, and I think, with the transfers that you've got, there's an absolute possibility that you can bring him in based off what you see first round. No one, this is the tricky thing with internationals. No one really knows based off what's gone on before, what's going to happen in them. It's the most information that you've got from friendlies and qualifiers and how the players have been playing for their teams. But we don't know too much. We don't see them every week. So I'm going to be all eyes, Tom, for those first couple of group games to really see what's going on. Just on that group, do you know anything on Mexico or Saudi Arabia?
I've got to be completely honest. I'm not an expert on Saudi Arabia. I know Mexico have some fairly dangerous attackers. Obviously, they got Jimenez that's... Well, I don't even know if he will start for Mexico. I'll just have a quick look through the players to see if I recognise them. But I know they've got a guy called Herving Lozano who's pretty nippy and quite dangerous. And they've just got some good, solid, energetic, just the typical sort of South American stereotype midfielder, really. And I think their defence isn't too bad either. And they've got the legend that is Ochoa in goal. I don't know if you can remember him, the guy with the massive hair that just pulls out worldly saves every World Cup.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you were saying, I think Argentina have got to be favourites to win that group. But second, I think it could be between... I think Saudi Arabia could upset, being the fact that the tournament's in the Middle East. I think they might have similar sort of attitudes to games as the Qataris do. I think calling second place in that group, it could be between all three of the rest, to be completely honest.
Yeah, again, we'll see what Argentina do. They've been disappointing in major tournaments more recently, haven't they? As well, I think the last World Cup, I can't remember exactly but they didn't pull down any trees, did they? So we'll see how they fare this time.
And then Group D, we've got France, Australia, Denmark, and Tunisia. If Twitter is anything to go by this week, it sounds like it's a clear first and second for France and Denmark. I think people are writing off Australia quite quickly, and Tunisia. Well, I think England beat them 6-0 in the group stages in 2018? I'm pretty sure we had a massive win against them.
I think that was Panama, mate.
Was it Panama? My bad. We played Tunisia as well, didn't we? My bad.
Yeah, it was 2-1, I think. You'd have to have. I don't know how I remember that. I think Harris Kane scored late.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? He scored the late winner on the back post with a header, didn't he?
Yeah, 2. I think in the order of it'll be the quality in terms of top to bottom. It's France, Denmark, Tunisia, Australia, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree.
France haven't been in. But the French's form hasn't been great going into the tournament, so that's something to consider.
Mate, I've got to say, I don't really rate France this tournament. I think it sounds like they've got a lot of infight, like they always do. It seems to be a French tradition of their national team to have a lot of infighting between their squad. There's no Pogba, there's no Kante, and Pogba and Kante, I feel, have been integral to their team for doing so well in the tournaments that they have. They've got Mbappe. I don't think Mbappe played very well at the Euros, and we know, well, personally, I don't like him as a player because I think he's a bit of a spoiled brat, to be completely honest, with the way he's been dealing with PSG. I don't know what that means for how he'll play in the World Cup. Obviously, he had a decent tournament in 2018, but I feel he's a slightly different player and human being to the Mbappe in 2018. Obviously, Benzema will be in the team, coming off the back of a Ballon d'Or. Can he fit together with Mbappe? You know, two stars of that magnitude. Can they play well together? I think it remains to be seen for me. There's a few question marks around France, in my opinion.
Yeah, and there's a bit of a legend in the Danish ranks there, isn't there, Tom?
Are you talking? Are you?
Defensive.
Yeah, yeah. Are you talking Mailer?
I am indeed, mate. I don't know if you feel free to
Well,
feel
he
free to.
I think he's one of. He's certainly been in all of my drafts so far. Anyway, I think Denmark. I think one of their characteristics of their national team is that they're pretty resolute defensively. I remember I think they beat England. I don't know if it was in a competitive game or a friendly at Wembley. They played really well defensively, and they were very tough to break down in the Euros as well. Kasper Schmeichel seems to be like god level goalkeeper when he plays for Denmark, and they've just got really good sort of defensive players. So I think defensively Denmark will be pretty good, and Mæhle looks to be a really exciting attacking option, but playing in defence.
He was brilliant. If for anyone that sort of didn't pick it up in the Euros, he was like it's an unbelievable tournament from an offensive perspective, goals, assists. He was superb, and if you didn't own him, like you were fully punished. So he's an exciting, like Tom said, I feel like they're really resolute and they're very together as a nation as well. We obviously saw that with the Christian Eriksen moment, and the way that they bounced back from that at the Euros was superb, really. So yeah, I think there's some value in there, and one to keep an eye on there with Denmark as the tournament progresses.
And I'd say Group E, just looking at that, and we'll show it a bit later on, but Group E seems to be the passing bonus group pick. So the likes of Spain and Germany, have been quite big for average passes completed. And I think I would say with European teams as well, with no disrespect to... I just feel like playing the Nations League, etc., they play slightly higher quality international teams, and I believe the likes of the Spanish defenders have got good passing numbers against some high quality teams, and the same for Germany as well. I think I think I've linked it in the description of this one actually, because I don't want to take any credit. The chap Ollie Paul, who most people probably recognise on Twitter, wrote a fantastic article on Fantasy Football Hub, just going through the key teams for passing bonus in the World Cup, and Spain and Germany top his list. The likes of Eric Garcia and Laporte regularly make 100 passes for Spain, and the likes of Rudiger and Süle, Kimmich and Gundogan for Germany are pretty good for passing as well.
I think Germany have got some really exciting attacking prospects as well in there. So I think it's just a shame that from the group stage perspective that they have to play each other.
It's almost got me off picking their players, to be honest. Like the Spanish defenders, I'm a little bit iffy on.
Costa Rica and Japan are sort of probably, with Costa Rica especially, plum fixtures to pit up against. But I think I'll have a Spain and in my current drafts. I've got a Spain and a Germany player in there. Tom, I really like, as we'll see on Friday, like a couple of their players.
Cool. And then Group F, we've got Belgium, Canada, Morocco, and Croatia. I think, in my opinion, there are two, at least on paper, outstanding teams in that group in Belgium and Croatia. I think Belgium have slightly gone over their peak of their national team. Unfortunately, they didn't win anything with the stars that they had. I think they're just on the decline now, but that obviously doesn't mean they're not a respectable opposition and a team that can go far in the tournament. I think it's them and Croatia are the outstanding two.
It's kind of similar with Croatia, isn't it? Like 2018, when we played them and lost, they just probably deserved to beat us. But then when we played them in the Euros, we were the better team, and you just sensed that they were over, with that particular set of players, they were over that kind of that peak. I know that I think you've got a Croatia and a Belgium player, haven't you, in your draft? I haven't got any of them, but I haven't looked deep enough into the fixtures yet, so that might change on Friday. We've got Canada and Morocco as well. Do you know, what's your sort of...
I think, like you were saying for the Sky game, because we don't need to pick enablers or any... I've not really looked into Canada and Morocco, I've got to say. No. And I would probably just advise people to stay clear. I think the star player for Canada is obviously Alphonso Davies, but are you going to back him to keep clean sheets, score goals? He's a left back. I don't know if he plays left back for Canada. He might well play on the wing. But I think regardless, it's Canada. That might be a complete disrespect, and you can clip me up, but I think Belgium and Croatia are the teams to be picking from that group.
Yeah, for sure. You're absolutely right with that. We said at the start, didn't we? I don't think you have to go delving into like passing bonus of the Iran centre backs in this game, you can pretty much choose mid to premium players in all positions and still have money left over, kind of thing. So I think the research just comes in how much are these teams whipping boys.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that'll be where I'll go the next few days before Friday. Like we said, today was just that little introduction, and I think based off fixtures, I'll have a look at some of those key teams, aka sort of Costa Rica and Japan, for the Germany and the Spain games, for prime example, and see just how resolute some of these sides are, and see who's better and see who's worse, and then try and attack the ones that potentially look worse on paper. But yeah, we don't need to go for any of them, which is quite nice, really.
And then, excuse me, Group G, we've got Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, and Cameroon. Obviously, well, likewise with Argentina and a few of the other big teams. Brazil, I think they might even be favourites to win the tournament. They've got a very deep squad of very talented players. I'd say the only sort of positions they're a bit light in is fullback. I think Dani Alves has made the squad, hasn't he? And he's about, well, I don't want to disrespect people of that age, but Dani Alves, I think, is nearly 40, isn't he?
So how old he
I think so,
is?
yeah.
He's not old, but in football terms, for
Exactly.
anyone, yeah,
Um,
yeah. And I think Ala Ollie's article, I think they're pretty good for passing as well, right? The Brazilians.
the only thing, and it's similar story with Spain as well. The only thing is, in my gut, I can't guarantee the centre back partnership because Spain have got three good ones. They've got Eric Garcia, Pau Torres, and Laporte. I think Garcia is favoured over Torres, and the partnership is usually Garcia and Laporte. But that doesn't mean that Torres can't come in because he's a quality centre back. In Brazil, have got Thiago Silva, Marquinhos, and Eder Militao from Real Madrid. So they got three top quality centre backs. And obviously, we know Thiago Silva's age. He can't. I don't know how much football he can play during the World Cup. He could be rotated in for one of them. So it's just a little bit unsure as to who will play at the back for Brazil. I personally.
Who's their favoured keeper at the moment? Is it Allison?
I actually don't know. I think it probably is Allison.
Yeah.
But again, like that could change. Like say Allison makes an absolute howler in one of the games, Ederson's straight in that team, isn't he?
Yeah, I think it. Someone might know, but I think at some point it switched round. I think Edison was. I just had the nod at some point, maybe like when Allison went through a bit of a dip of form, but certainly Allison's been back to his best this season, and probably expect him to have the number one. But it's such good keepers to choose from. They could be an option if you know who's starting there.
And I think for me, I've got one Brazil player in at the moment, and I think it'd be the same for pretty much everyone. I've got Neymar because I just feel he's the talismanic figure of that Brazil team. He's on all the penalties. You know, he's the star man. I think the writing's on the wall for him to have a good tournament, in my opinion.
Just looking at that group, like Serbia, Switzerland, Cameroon, it kind of just strikes me as mediocrity. I think I will look at a defensive asset there, whether or not it's the keeper or it's like one of the centre backs. The actual forward that I've gone for, Tom, and I've seen him in a lot of people's drafts, is obviously Vinny Junior. I do like the Neymar pick as well. I just think Vinny Junior kind of winning goal in the Champions League last year has kind of stepped up to the plate for Madrid, class player, like holds that kind of talisman figure as well. So I think and he's a midfielder on Sky. So if you want an extra point or whatever for a goal and whatnot, I think he's another really, really good shout. And then it frees up that third forward spot for you as well.
I definitely wouldn't want to talk you
Yeah,
out
I
of that,
think
mate.
right
That's
or
a good
wrong.
pick.
Yeah, I don't think it's any right or wrong on it. It's options, isn't it?
And a few things to note. I think the only other team I'd probably pick from is Switzerland from that group. I'd say Granit Xhaka.
Yeah.
I'd back him to have a reasonable tournament, just given the form he's been in for Arsenal. Shaqiri always seems to do okay for Switzerland as well.
I was about to say.
I think he's on quite a few. Well, he just always turns up when he plays for Switzerland. And then another one is Ricardo Rodriguez, their left back. I'm pretty sure he takes all the set pieces, and he may well still be on penalties. And for a left back to be on penalties, I think, he gets one penalty throughout the group stage. I think it's probably worth picking him.
Yeah, defo. And then I'm not too much on Cameroon and Serbia.
No, Not for me. I don't know if I'm being ignorant of the teams that I don't consider to have a chance in their groups. Feel free to chime in the chat if you're seeing options from these teams. But like with just the way the pricing is in Sky, I think you can pick from the good teams and make a really good team.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think once we start looking at kind of who's whipping boys and all that sort of stuff, you might uncover a gem. But I think most people in the community, you'd have already seen it in a tweet or whatever in a thread. So yeah, I think for this first kind of early entry into the tournament, Tom, it's absolutely fine to just go through them quite generally, and then we might end up just being a little bit more precise on Friday, mightn't we, when we come to the teams? And then if we're doing some pods as we go, we're definitely going to start picking up some more information, aren't we?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Well, I'll certainly be watching as much as I can and keeping track of stats and stuff. So yeah, absolutely. One thing I remember from the Euros as well. I know Italy were one of the favourites to win the tournament going into it, but I just remember on the first day of the tournament they played and they just immediately looked like they could win it from day one, and that was like the point, to just like hop on the Italy players. So yeah, the likes of Insigne and Berardi and their defence, it was just an absolute just hop on them because they looked really good. And equally, I can't remember if they played Turkey opening up.
Spinazzola was the left back, wasn't it?
Spinazzola, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just like, yeah, you just thought, these guys, I absolutely need to have them straight away. And it came off. Like, yeah, they kept that form up. And I'd say the story of the World Cup will be quite similar. Well, if we pick out any teams that look exceptionally good for the first game of the groups, absolutely get on them for the second round. And equally with teams that are rubbish as well. I remember Turkey at the Euros as well. People were backing them to be really good, but they were absolutely terrible.
They were dog, weren't they? They were dog. I think you're right, Tom. And I think actually, just talking strategy, I think if you want to differentiate and win this, you have to you have to jump on like straight away, like first game and then into second game. And I think there's going to be some value here in like block defenses. Personally, I've seen a few drafts knocking around from some very seasoned Sky players, and I've seen like triple ups in the back line and stuff like that. I think that's a totally viable option. To potentially separate yourself. Yes, you're going all in. So if that team concedes, then you've lost 3 cleans or whatever there. But if that team goes to a clean and a couple of attacking returns, you're really setting yourself up. But I think short format game, I think you're right. We see like the equivalent of Italy in that first game. Raise it and then look potentially who was a standouts there, get them in, and that'll keep you in the mix, because people will be aggressive in terms of uses of the moves as well, Tom.
Absolutely. And then just conscious we haven't covered Group H yet. That's got Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and I think Son is sort of fit enough to play for the Korean Republic as well. I've got to say, my limited knowledge of Ghana and Korea, but I think, again, calling second place in this group in my gut is quite difficult for me. I think probably Portugal and Uruguay will get there, but I've just got a feeling the likes of Ghana and the Korean Republic will make a challenge.
Yeah, I think Uruguay have got some nice
tasty
picks
players.
In Uruguay. Yeah. And what's your thoughts? Have you got any thoughts on Portugal? Like,
I don't really know what to think of them. There's been a lot going around in the press, obviously, about the Ronaldo situation. I won't go into that as a Man United fan, but I think it's impossible to suggest that won't have an impact on the Portugal team. I just don't think. It's hard to say, isn't it, without getting too Man United bias, but I think it's almost a similar story to France with Mbappe. It just depends how Ronaldo integrates himself into that team as to how they play.
Yeah, I mean, Portugal's going to be a watch and wait for me for sure. Like, we know how good Cancelo is and that, but I just think there's better options.
And I don't think they're particularly good for passing bonus. Obviously, we all look to Cancelo for Man City in the Premier League game because he's consistent passing bonus every game. But in the Portugal team, I don't think are necessarily a big passing side. Obviously, they play some good football with obviously Bernardo Silva, Fernandes, Cancelo. We all know the players they've got, but I don't think they're a tiki-taka passing team.
No, I think I'm more inclined to probably stick in a Uruguayan player from that group. for sure. Either one of the midfield options or like a Darwin Nunes or something along the lines of that. Their back line looks pretty aged when I had a little flick through yesterday, but doesn't mean that they're still not capable of. They're usually really resolute at the back, aren't they? I think
Diego,
Godin's still in the
oh
team.
mate,
He's
I
about 90,
can't I
about
can't speak
95, isn't he?
I can't speak highly enough of Diego Godin. He's an absolutely unbelievable player. I don't even know if he's first choice for them now because they've got Jose Jimenez from Atletico, and then Araujo, or I can't pronounce it properly, but the centre back for Barcelona. So I'm not
Yeah.
entirely sure if Godin will be first choice, but honestly, he's one of my favourite defenders in recent football history because he's not very quick, he's not very strong, but he's
Reads
still
the games
one of the
well.
best centre backs in the world. Yeah,
I think there's value in that back line. Like I said, I really do. I think they'll be resolute as normal, and I think there's value in midfield and up front with Uruguay. I think there could be I was going to say a surprise package, but I think most people know what you're going to get with Uruguay, which is you don't want to meet them, see them in your round of 16 or quarterfinals or whatever, thinking this is going to be a game and a half because they've got quality literally all throughout the pitch.
we've just had a beautiful girls here bot in the chat, which is quite funny. But yeah, they've got they
They're
got
talking about us.
I don't know, maybe I'm flattered. But yeah, they got Nunes, Suarez, Cavani as their potential front three. Then they got Valverde in midfield, and then a really, you just imagine boisterous and difficult to break down defence. So I think you're right about Uruguay.
Who's where's Bentancur from?
He's Uruguayan as well.
Thought so. So Valverde and Bentancur are good options. Bentancur's been pretty damn good for Spurs. Been popping up with goals. So that's what I mean. That's where the value lies. There, Valverde's been very, very good for Real Madrid as well. Been keeping an eye on. Can't remember who. I think it's the Footy Doctor on Twitter, and he's been raving about. He's been just writing about the World Cup and raving about Bentancur and Valverde as centre midfield options. Obviously, that has to then go as translate into points, but they're both good quality players. So I think there's value there, Tom.
Yep, absolutely. Just that concludes the group. I'm conscious we've been going for 50 minutes, but hopefully this has been good chat for everyone. I'm just going to look at the chat quickly, mate, if that's all right.
Yes, of course, mate.
Matt SkyFF saying Mane is quoted to be out of the first games in inverted commas, so whatever that means. Apparently, according to Manchester, USA have a good young team, but their manager's a bit negative. And I think similarly to me, you can't really predict who finishes second in that group. And then it just reminiscent about Spinazzola.
Yeah, Spinazzola and Mailer. If you just got on them two from the off, like you would have been off to a flying start. I think I was on Spinazzola. I think I was on triple up Italy. Actually, I think we were both on it, weren't we? Like Spinazzola, Insigne, and maybe Barella or
I think I had their keeper. I think I had Donnarumma, to be honest.
Yeah, so did I, Donnarumma. Yeah, I did. It's a real shame they're not there, isn't it? But quite funny as well.
And then, sorry, I just hit my mic then. And then just looking at the fixtures, mate, for that match week 1.
Let's do it. Yeah.
What are you saying for that Qatar-Ecuador game then? What's your thinking at the moment? Have you picked a captain? Are you skipping it?
I don't know, if I'm honest, right now. I don't think you need to skip it. I think you can make that move straight away. But what are you getting? Do you know what I mean by that? What are you getting as a points return? I just think you just shouldn't skip it because it's so short format. Personally, at the moment, but I don't know. I need to think on it a little bit more. But what I don't want, and we've seen even in Sky, is picking someone who gets a 4-pointer. Even you're off to 8 points. You're like neither in or there. And if I go for a Qatari player, does that mean that I'm stuck with him for three group games? You know, like we said, I think almost their best performance could be their first game. You know, like it's on home turf, and they're all going to be buzzing the fans, and you know they're going to go out the blocks. But do I really want one for 3 games? I don't know. There's some enablers in the Ecuador team, isn't there? But as you said, we don't need an enabler. So it's either go with someone where you think there's going to be an 18-point haul. So either like one of the goalkeeper or something, or one of their attacking players that you think might score. I think they'll score opening day. I really do. Um, Unless they obviously collapse. I think I'll steer clear of Ecuador on that one, Tom. Like, would you want to be facing the home nation on that first game?
I'm at the moment, I've got the Ecuadorian keeper in my team, and he's my captain, and then I'll just bin him off for Emiliano Martinez on the Tuesday,
Martinez.
and then just stick
So
with
that's your
Martinez.
thinking then. So you're going to go in, look for that sort of 18 pointer. That's what it'll either be two or it'll be four or 18, won't it?
Or another one to go for is Stupinan, the Brighton fullback as well. He's obviously similar likelihood of a clean sheet as the goalkeeper. They play for the same team, but I think Stupinan has got a bit of attacking threat, and he's here and there for tackles as well. And then you've got Moses Casado from Brighton as well, who has got a good assist record for Ecuador. Again, questionable opposition they've been against, and he can get the odd tackles as well.
If Ecuador were like Argentina or Spain or France opening day against Qatar, it'd be different. But I just think like, what will the occasion do to them on that day versus the home nation? They're not a world class. Well, I don't think they are. We might see that by the end of the tournament. But I don't think they're a world class nation. I'm just thinking like, I'm going to get a 5 or 10 pointer that opening game. I think if I'm going to do anything, it's exactly what you're doing. I'm going to shoot for a goalkeeper or defender, and then captain them, and then just ship them out for someone for the next game.
Sounds good.
It's a shame that's like there's not more games on that night, but
yeah, it's what it is. That's our Sunday night, isn't it? Qatar, Ecuador, but I'm sure it'll be. Well, it's just the atmosphere of the World Cup, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll all be watching.
Let us know in the chat if you're thinking differently or the same as us as well. It'd be interesting to see what other people are thinking. And then on Monday, we've got England, Iran, Senegal, Netherlands, and USA, Wales. Just thinking of those fixtures, similarly to what we do in the Prem, have you got an outstanding captain on that day that you're looking at?
Yeah, I think the outstanding captain's Harry Kane, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I think you could look at someone from the Netherlands as well. But I just think, yeah, Harry Kane, talisman figure. I think you've got to go for Harry Kane.
Talisman figure, in all due respect, poor opposition. I think we're going to want to come out and win that game comfortably. So, yeah, for me, at the moment, on my first draft, the armband is on Harry Kane.
The only, obviously, the only caveat with Kane is that he's played a lot of football for Tottenham recently. And his historical record, well, he didn't do it in the last World Cup. He peaked quite early, didn't he? But in the Euros, anyway, he started off slow and built himself into the tournament. So the trend, he could do that again this tournament, and especially given the volume of football. But I still think the pros outweigh the cons with Kane, and he's number one.
He's low-key, well, not even low-key, but he's been really good. He's just been ticking over like near enough a goal a game, and he scored against Leeds, didn't he, as well? I just think... Tom, are you looking at a plum opening fixture for a World Cup as the main man? That is it right there. And the fact he's on penalties as well. Like, do you remember, was it the Panama game where he had like two penalties? Or I can't even remember. They were just like, it was either Panama or Costa Rica, wasn't it? It was one or the other. I think Panama. Just getting like, well, just hauled down in the box and stuff. And you think if Iran goes sort of touch tight and sort of play that game, then there could be a couple of penalties there for him as well. So I just think don't overthink it. Stick it on Harry Kane. By all means, have a player from Netherlands. By all means, have players from Wales or USA. But yeah, Kane's my outstanding man for that day.
Absolutely. And then on Tuesday, we've got opening game of Argentina against Saudi Arabia, Denmark against Tunisia, Mexico, Poland, and France, Australia. Couple of games there where you could select a captain from. I think you referred to that, spoke about that earlier on. Sorry. What are you thinking?
That was one of the games that I had in mind. I think it's Lionel Messi or Mbappe or Benzema for that game. Yeah, that's really tricky, Tom. That is because France haven't been in great form. We talk about the French, but that's a plum fixture against Australia, and what a way to get off on a good foot, just going sort of 3-0 or something. But exactly the same can be said for Argentina against Saudi Arabia, and they've got some good options there. Lionel Messi, stands out to me on that one. I think he's probably the standout captain that day.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obvious. He's the most expensive player in the Sky game. I think he'll be the most popular captain. But like you're saying, I think there are three options there. And if someone were to tell me they're going Mbappe or Benzema, I wouldn't tell them not to. I think I'll be on Messi. I think one thing to point out about Messi as well is just the amount of time that he spends on the ball for Argentina. I think might have been against some of the lower opposition in South America, all due respect, but he actually gets passing bonus as well. I think I saw on that Hub article that he made like over 80 passes against Venezuela. So it's just another string to his bow as a Sky asset.
Yeah, I think that one. I think in that one for me, I'll probably have a French forward, but I will probably stick it on Messi for that day.
Yeah, I'm the same.
But like you said, if someone said they're going to go the other way around, like you wouldn't argue with that because Australia is quite a nice early fixture as well.
And then Wednesday the 23rd, we've got Morocco, Croatia, Germany, Japan, Spain and Costa Rica, and Belgium, Canada. You mentioned earlier that I've got a Belgian in my team, and that's Kevin De Bruyne, and he's currently got the armband for that game for me. I don't hate an outside shout on Perisic, actually, given that he's classed as a defender in Sky. Obviously, Croatia, not quite, I don't think the team that they were in 2018, but I think Perisic class as a defender. He always plays really well for Croatia. He's one of their main players, isn't he? I think that's a decent shout.
I think it is actually. I think you're probably right, especially with that position chain. Oh well, yeah, the position that he is on the game. I think any Spanish player on that day will be a good shout. If you choose to, there's no one. Is there anyone that front line that really shouts out to you, Tom? Like I had a look through. There's no one that's got yes for Spain.
I think they'll play with Morata and Ferran Torres. That's my gut feel as to who they'll start with. But can you class those two as prolific? Morata is one of the most inconsistent strikers I've ever seen. He just reminds me of Torres in terms of how many sitters he misses. And then Ferran Torres, I think it entirely depends on the opposition and how they set up as to whether he can get space to do his thing. So I don't really like the Spain attack. But the defenders, definitely. I think if we can find who's likely to start, probably Laporte's probably the safer pick. Maybe just captaining him and being boring and just going for passing bonus and clean sheets could be a way to go.
Yeah, you could see a 10-pointer there, couldn't you? And if you had a couple of Spanish defenders there, you could see a couple of 10-pointers, getting one captained. I think Germany have got some good options. I know that Leroy Sané has been in really good form for Bayern Munich. I'm presuming he's starting for Germany.
Yeah, I think I would imagine so. Thinking about Germany, actually, I didn't really talk about them during the group stages. I think they're a good shout for this tournament, to be honest. I think they're sort of being underlooked a little bit, but I think they've just got a really stacked team, and it's just the German mentality of tournament football, isn't it?
Yeah, Rudiger could be a good shout. There, centre back, passing. We know he's an attacking threat actually as well, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And then Leroy Sané. You've got some good midfield enablers there, and you Gundogan, Kimmich.
Yep. I think both Gundogan. I think Gundogan's probably less likely to start than Kimmich. I think Joshua Kimmich is pretty much nailed in that team, and I'd expect the midfield three to be Kimmich, Goretzka, and Gundogan. But I think Gundogan could be rotated depending on his form, etc. But if Gundogan played, sorry,
mate, you carry on.
I was just going to say Gundogan is the penalty taker for Germany as well, one to note. And I think between him and Kimmich, I think they've picked up over 60 passes in a few of their recent games. So just one to consider.
And what do you think they'll do as up front? Do you think it'll be like a Sane, Havertz, Gnabry?
Yeah, a lot of people are backing this Musiala guy as well.
The English, the one that slipped the English net.
The one that slipped the English net, yeah.
I think he'll start, won't he? I think by all accounts, he's been absolutely mustard for Bayern Munich. He's been the kind of the Jude Bellingham and then some.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he'll come into. He's not an out and out forward though, is he?
He's classed as a midfielder in Sky.
He is. Yeah,
he strikes me as a winger. If he plays, he'll be on the side of a three up top, I would imagine.
We'll see what happens.
And then they've got Thomas Muller, Gnabry, Havertz, Sane. As you said, it's really, really stacked.
it's actually eyeing and seeing who's favoured there. I think Havertz will start as a 9.
Yeah.
I think Sane will start, but I might be wrong. Someone might tell me in the chat, and this is what we'll go and figure out over the next few days. But there's some value in that forward line for sure. Has anyone said anything?
Yeah, no, just Manchester, mate. Gnabry is a midfielder in Sky. He's the most expensive Germany player. He's 10 million, but he's a midfielder in Sky.
Yeah, well, he's quality though, isn't he? He's a really quality. He didn't quite fire at the Euros, did he? I remember like having him and like expecting him like big things, but still doesn't put me off him. He's a good player. Is
Do
Sane a midfielder or a forward on it? I imagine he'd be midfield, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he's a midfielder. And he's slightly cheaper than Gnabry as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's some value there, mate. And if they get going, there could be some goals.
Yep.
Sane was doing Champions League, but I don't think Musiala to me is maybe not when you're comparing on a quality perspective. He's right there, but in terms of a Sky pick, I'd prefer someone like if it's between him and a Sane, for example. I'd rather go that way, or even Gnabry. But again, hopefully, will become apparent after we see how they set up for the first game. And actually, it's something to note. When I was having a look yesterday, some teams, not all, have actually got a friendly before the World Cup first game. I'm sure you've seen that, Tom, and most of the people here will see that. So I think like Argentina, maybe some of the South American teams have got some friendlies.
Okay.
I want to say like the 16th, which is tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
so
yeah.
might just be worth keeping an eye on a couple of the teams and just seeing who's got what.
I just need to quickly nip to the loo, mate, but do you mind going through the Thursday fixtures while I'm away? I won't be long.
Yes, mate, go for it. Have you got quickly before you went, Tom? Have you got any standouts? Oh, I mean, it's Brazil, isn't it?
For that day, yeah, I think Brazil for captaincy for me. I think because it's so late on as well, I think you could start without a Brazil player and then bring them in for this day because you've got 3 transfers to use in your game week, and this is the last fixtures. So you could well start without Neymar or Vinicius, whoever you're going to pick for that game, and then bring them in. I think that's definitely a good way to play it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I'm kind of thinking for this Thursday game, I mean, what Tom said is probably quite a good option. I don't see too much value in the Switch, especially with us the early kickoff as well, the Switzerland versus Cameroon game. That can probably be avoided. I don't think many people have many players from those sides. Obviously, I think there will be some value in Uruguay for sure. Again, I don't think there's a kind of a captaincy shout from there just yet anyway. And whether or not you've got a couple of their players or whatever is a different matter. For me, Portugal, I'm going to watch and wait. I think there might be a few people that will take the punt on Ronaldo. He's proven in major tournaments. I think I'll keep an eye on Twitter and whatnot and see what people are doing. So I don't really want to fall behind there, if I'm brutally honest with you. And if I see Ronaldo's like majorly picked or whatever, it might change my personal thought process. But I think, like me and Tom were just saying then, I think the standout captain probably comes from Brazil. I was just saying, Tom, basically, Switzerland, Cameroon, I don't think there'll be many people picking from there. Uruguay, Korea, I think there will be some players picked from Uruguay, but I don't think many people will go for a captain straight away on that. Portugal, I was just saying, like, for me, it's a watch and wait. But if I see Ronaldo at high ownership, mate, and captain pick of the day, I'll probably go with it just because I don't want to lose early ground. And it's just saying, whilst you're off, then like Ronaldo's just proven in major tournaments, isn't he? But just as you came back, just saying, I think the standout pick's probably one of the Brazilian boys, and Neymar or Vinny Jr. that day is a really good shout. And actually, yeah, I think it's pretty close between those two. I like Vinny Jr., but I can see the just talisman is Neymar, isn't it? If he's got sort of on form.
Yeah, mate. Like I said, I think he's obviously not nowhere near. He's 30 as Neymar. I feel like this is his peak tournament in terms of his footballing, like stance, his career. The Brazil squad, they're heavily backed to win it. He's on penalties. I think he might be. I don't know if he's ahead of Pele at the moment, or he might be very close to being their all-time record goal scorer. He's got 75 goals in 121 games for Brazil. He's got a really, really good record. I just think this is a game for Neymar myself.
Out of interest, I know we'll do a poll, but who do you think will be, or from what team do you think will be the most popular captain that day? Do you think it'll be Brazil, or do you think
I think it'd be
a big handful of Ronaldo?
I think it'd definitely be Brazil. I think that the world has been like, without taking it too much as a United fan, the world's seeing the Ronaldo stuff that's come out. I think that will put people off going for him. I really do.
Yeah, I'm obviously a bit more neutral about it. Like, I've seen it, but I've just kind of gone over the top of my head, really. I think I think you're right. I think it could affect camp, but I think there's the potential there for just be right. Let's just get it out of the way. Right, we're a national team. It's not United. We all play for different teams anyway. I know Bruno and Ronaldo are the same team, whatever. But let's just come together. And like I said, Ronaldo's been a serial kind of killer on a pitch, hasn't he? So I'm really interested to see that day, if I'm honest, and where people go. Again, more news might come out, Tom. There might be an injury pre-game and all this sort of stuff. So there's a bit of time yet, but
it'll be interesting to see. Let us know in the chat if you've got any thoughts, Portugal or Brazil, who you're backing. Be interested to see what other people are doing. So yeah, do let us know in the chat and say hello.
I don't think we're ever leaving this stream, mate, because we've got
loads we want to do. Probably got another half an hour, I'd say. Are you all right for that time, by the way? I don't know what you got on this evening.
Yeah, we'll keep plodding away.
I won't go through all of these, but the next thing I thought would be useful for people to see is just the penalty takers for each nation. I can't remember out loud who I got this data from, but I've put it in the description of this stream. It'll take you to a link to the website where I found this. And based on all of my knowledge of football, these are the penalty takers for each team. And then I just really, remembering the teams that we said we'd pick from, looking at the group stages, your penalty taker for Argentina is Messi. It's got down here that the penalty taker for Belgium is Lukaku, second is Hazard. Penalty taker for Brazil is Neymar. Modric is the taker for Croatia, seconded by Perisic. Eriksen for Denmark. Valencia for Ecuador, maybe if you're interested in that first game. Casado, but I think that's another Casado, not the Brighton player. Kane for France, Mbappe for Kane for England, Mbappe for France, Gundogan for Germany. Let's see, next page. Depay for Netherlands, but whether he actually starts, I'm not too sure. Lewandowski for Poland, obviously Ronaldo for Portugal. Mane will take them for Senegal, Mitrovic for Serbia. Like, all sort of the talisman for each team takes the penalties. That's sort of the rule with international football, isn't it? Pulisic for the USA, Bale for Wales, Suarez for Uruguay.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's
kind of...
Go on, mate.
I was just going to say, like, it probably reinforces your pick if you're just deciding between two, and then you like the captaincy pick, right? Go with no, not captaincy, the pick. Go with the penalty taker, sort of thing.
And then just looking at my next few slides, we're just from reading a couple of articles and doing a bit of analysis myself, I've picked out some players from the bigger teams that I expect to be good for passing and maybe tackle bonus as well. I think tackle bonus will be one to look out for, because obviously the minnows against the bigger teams, you're not going to get passing bonus, but you might be more likely to get tackles. So I think as the tournament goes on, we might be able to find some passing, some tackle bonus machines. But I think in terms of passing bonus, I can start with Spain, mate. It looks like Spain under Enrique definitely try to play a possession-based game. Laporte and Eric Garcia seem to be the favoured two centre-backs. And I think in a game against Switzerland, they each made over 100 passes. So those are two straight away to have a look at. Pau Torres is another option at centre-back for them, but I think Garcia and Laporte are favoured. And then an easy mistake that I made is expecting Rodri to be the first choice, like defensive mid for Spain, and just chucking him in, expecting passing and tackle bonus. But obviously Busquets is still in that squad, and it looks like he still plays quite regularly for Spain. So Rodri's not cut and shut, safe to start, so I'd probably avoid him. And then for the centre-backs, I've just showed you three very good high-level options there that Spain could play. So probably Laporte's the most nailed, and I'd say if Garcia starts making mistakes or whatever, which I think he's prone to do, Torres could be straight in that team.
Yeah, nice, mate. Like it. I think I'll be on probably Laporte from the off, personally. He was in my draft before I saw that article and stuff. It's just reinforced, like it.
And next up was Brazil. I don't know if you've got this and you wanted to talk through it, mate. Are you happy for me to? I don't mind.
Yeah, I think we sort of went over it earlier, didn't we? It's kind of like we know that they've got some quality options at centre back for passing bonus and stuff. It's who starts, isn't it? I know you put the two up there. I think they're both good options. I don't know what you're going to add to that, but I want to know kind of who's first choice in there and go from there.
Yeah, and I think
you'd imagine Marquinhos is first choice, isn't he?
Yeah, you'd imagine he's the number one defender, and then it's between Thiago Silva and Militao for that second spot, I would say.
Yeah. Does anyone know what he's gone with more recently? Is he for Brazil?
I think he's been favouring Thiago Silva. But
interesting.
That doesn't obviously. I still don't think that means he's 100% guaranteed to play every group game. I really don't.
This is what makes me think if you wanted a sort of defensive double up, which I'm actually looking at his fixtures, thinking about, I'll be tempted for the goalkeeper. So the goalkeeper and Marquinhos, and going from there.
Yeah.
I know that takes a valuable defensive spot up, but I think what you said with it being the end of the week, if you want to make a move or whatever, a couple of moves, there's nothing wrong with that at all. And you've put Casemiro in there, Tom, haven't you? Presuming you're thinking kind of like
passing,
middleman,
tackle,
passes, tackles, yeah.
I think he could be
kind
a good
of
option.
enabler style midfielder.
And I think especially with, obviously Fabinho hasn't been in the greatest form this season. I personally think he's a fantastic player, but I don't think he's been in the best of forms. So I think Casemiro will be playing.
The Brazil manager came out and basically said Fabinho's kind of on the bench, not first choice. So that kind of clears that one up. I saw an interview with him. He's talking about a couple of players. So, yeah, I think you can go with Casemiro. He said Casemiro is the best defensive midfielder or something in the world, and that Fabinho is ready on the bench. So that pretty much sums up, I'd imagine, where his thought processes are with regards to that midfield.
And then next up, we had just some of the Germans. We had Gundogan, who, with a bit of potential for passing bonus and the fact that he's their penalty taker. Joshua Kimmich, again, passing in tackle bonus, history in some of their previous internationals. And then Süle and Rudiger, I think, are expected to be the two centre-backs. I think, is it Klosterman or someone like that, who's a close, he's waiting in the wings in sort of third choice. But I think Süle and Rudiger will be the two.
Good value there, Tom, 9.7.
Yeah.
But if I'm looking at that going, they've got Spain, and I'm looking at Brazil's group for 0.3 million more and going, well, look at their fixtures. My personal thinking is, would I then go with a Germany attacking player instead and then get triple up on Brazil? Early musing, basically. Because I think if you're looking at some of those groups, there's players in those groups where you could have two or three at the back and leave them all game. All group stage.
Sorry, I was just going back to the screen. I think personally my team to be doing that with is Argentina. They might not be as big for passing bonus, but I just have the feeling that defensively they're going to be pretty good.
Yeah, it's going to be good, mate. Just seeing all the different options and what people are going for.
So that covers Germany. And then the final one, I did mention that they had sort of fallen off sort of their peak, but Belgium have been pretty good for passing in previous international games. They play a back three. Obviously, Alderweireld and Vertonghen are older than they used to be, but they still appear to be the first choice centre-back. So, and they seem to be getting pretty regular passing bonus. And then Tielemans is quite heavily back for some tackles and passing too. And he's been in great form for Leicester as well. To be honest, I think he'll have... I've just got a feeling about Tielemans this tournament. I think he'll turn up and do quite well. Especially just given the strength of that Belgian team, I think he'll be a key part of that.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's value there, mate. I can't argue that at all. And obviously, De Bruyne is. I know you've just gone with sort of some of it, but he's an outstanding pick as well, isn't he?
And then the final team I got here was the Netherlands. I think they've got a pretty decent group with the likes of Van Dijk, De Jong, Timber, and Ake. Ake, a little bit unsure as to whether he's first choice to start, but Van Dijk and Timber seem to be heavily favoured. And then Frankie De Jong in that midfield, you'd expect to get some passing as well. I really like Van Dijk at that price, and especially considering the group that the Netherlands have got. I think they've got a really strong team, haven't they? The Netherlands. They've been disappointing in previous tournaments, but I think they might have a good one this year.
I think Ake, Van Dijk, and Timber are favoured, and then De Ligt's the one that's not been favoured.
Okay.
So much recently. That's kind of what I've read. Again, just going back through some of their previous fixtures and looking at the lineups and formations and stuff, are probably eradicating the issues there. But you want to be safe, you probably just go Van Dijk or Timber, don't you?
Yep. Oh, and then that was our mini league. So yeah, that goes through sort of some of the teams for bonus points, etc. I think that sort of ends us nicely for the content that we wanted to cover on this stream. Just a brief introduction to the game, some interesting players to pick. We ran through the first week and who the best captains are. And I think it's good to finish off. So this is Sam mentioned he's going to set up a £5 league, but the code you see there is just for a free golden goal mini league. If you want to type in that code to the game, you can join our free league. And I think we've agreed, Sam, that the winner will be sent a packet of their choice of biscuits and maybe a golden goal mug if they're still making them on the website that I bought them off of.
We'll go with it. We've got 44, 45 managers in there now. Just had a quick look. So, the free golden goal league, that's what the winner will get. So get joining, guys. I think you can, yeah, it's there, isn't it? And then I will get the paid one up and running tonight.
Cool. I think that ends us there then. We did have, actually, before I forget, we did have some Twitter questions to go through. So have you got time to read through some of those, mate?
Yes, mate, go for it. I think we probably may have answered a couple anyway, but...
Yeah, I think so. All right, let's have a quick look. We got 7 replies to our tweet. So Jamie27, he asks us a couple of questions. Have you identified any sort of strategy with the game yet in terms of value of the assets that you'll pick and how you're going to use your transfers? I think we gave a little bit away there about how to potentially use transfers in week 1. Look to not start with Brazil players and bring them in for their final day games. And also, I think, not really needing to go bargain basement cheap with your picks.
Is it 3 transfers a game week?
3 transfers a game week, yeah.
Yeah. So I think, that strategy alone means, like you said, when you notice something and you want to be aggressive, that's what I'm going to do, aggressive and change it. Just because of that. I like that, what you said there, Tom. Absolutely bang on. Brazil towards the end. Could you possibly start with someone else, cover off, and then bring in an extra one for that captaincy? I think strategy will become apparent a little bit more when we get going, but that's what you just said then, my early thoughts. I think
it's just quite rational and logical, really, isn't it? Just to play it that way with the rules of the game as they are.
I also think, I don't know yet, but because when we're going through this, I'm like, I really like him from there, I like him from there. But I think like a double or a triple up on some of the defensive options is a good shout. I think there's some plum fixtures and groups in there for certain teams that we've maybe just slightly identified. And I think if you know the gems that are going to start in the back line, 2 or 3, I don't see, or the goalkeeper and 2, or whatever you may do. Obviously, it's everyone's decision. I might look for 2 and 2 and something like that. 2 from one team, goalkeeper and defender, 2 from the others, 2 defenders, and go that way and look to just try and get some blocks or mini blocks going from certain teams and probably not touch them. Looking at the 3 fixtures and going, right, I really like you for the back 5 or 6, whichever way you play it, and go, I really like you for those 3 home game fixtures, unless they obviously start really poorly and then make rotations in and around kind of the mid and forward line, something like that. That's an early thought process for me. Again, that could go completely tits up, Tom, because we could see a team go, you treble up on a side and they just start, really poor, and then suddenly you've got a problem on your hands. But I'm prepared for that risk for sure.
We had a couple of replies from Lack of Depth podcast, our fellow Sky content creator. One of them is about Ecuadorian players that this morning they weren't added to the game, but I think they've all been added now, haven't they?
I think they have. That's what I saw in one of the chats earlier. Yeah.
And then he's just made a statement with his second thing, just saying he likes the look of some of the Uruguay players, but he thinks they've got quality coming out of their eyeballs, and I think you're probably right, mate.
We would, yeah, as we've already talked about in the pod, haven't we? I hadn't seen him actually put that, but I totally agree. As you probably realise.
And then Ian Russell asks us, best cheap enablers. We'll probably have some come later in the week, but so far, like I keep saying, I've not really had to delve into the sub 7 million bracket. I mean, sort of cheaper-ish sort of players. Perisic isn't dirt cheap, but he's, I think, 8 million and class as a defender. I think he's a good option. We already spoke about Mailer, and I think Ricardo Rodriguez from Switzerland's always a shout because he's a defender on penalties. I don't know if you spotted any others.
No, again, Friday it might become a little bit clearer as we tried to cram in 4 or 5 premiums into our team and then suddenly need someone at 7 mil.
And then he also asks us, is it worth using transfers on strikers going for the big hauls each game day? I think it's the way to go. I think it's worth starting with someone in that first game, just using one of your 3 to get rid of them, and then bringing in a Brazil players or maybe multiple Brazil players for the final day. I think that's a good way to go.
There is on that opening game, but also thinking about it, Tom, going to strategy, if you had those 3 subs, so you started with who you want. Let's say you got the first two game days out the way, but not the first one. So you miss around Qatar and Ecuador. So you start with Harry Kane, whoever, and then you've then got 2 or 3 for the big hitter moves towards the back end of the week versus what other people might do, which is cover the first night, move them out, and then only have 2, but also really down one because you didn't manage to start with who you wanted to start with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's you could start.
That's
with
where my mind's roughly at the moment with it.
You could go with like Harry Kane, 2 England defenders, and then swap them out for 2 Brazil defenders and Neymar on the Thursday, and that could be a good way to go.
Yes, and is your 5-point haul on the first night then going to, equal what those transfers could do for you by bringing in established big hitters potentially?
Yeah, there's so many ways to play it. Yeah,
another strategy option, isn't it?
John Maloney, I think we've already covered this one, but he says thoughts on double or triple ups in defence with any of the teams. I think you already mentioned Spain as someone you're looking at. I quite like Argentina and Brazil. Yeah. I think it's just England. Yeah, England as well, definitely.
And maybe Uruguay. Just thinking off the top of my head.
Let's have a look at those groups again, shall we? Yeah, obviously Uruguay have got the Portugal factor in their group, but yeah, they're all quite cheap, the Uruguay defenders, to be fair. Yeah, I don't mind Germany either, but the thing about that Group E is just Spain and Germany have to play each other, and that sort of puts me off. But I think, would you back Germany to keep a clean sheet against Spain?
They've been good more recently. Yeah, it doesn't mean it's going to be a thriller, does it? That's the thing. You mean 2 good teams meet each other, it could be 0-0. Well, do you know what, Tom? I think Group F, I think Belgium, I just... Like, I know that what you said about Belgium, but I just got this sense they might just go through without conceding barely any goals there. I mean, Canada, Morocco, Croatia. Croatia is just over the hill, far away. There's Group G, Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, Cameroon. I think Brazil, Serbia, we've got a couple, Mitrovic and
Vlahovic. Yeah.
But you'd expect, again, Brazil to probably concede minimum amounts of goals. And if France get anywhere near what they can do, I think they're going to be value back there, but I don't think I'll be starting with that. So, yeah, England, Argentina, Germany, Belgium, Brazil, something like that.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. And then a final one. I think it was
Netherlands,
a joke.
Maybe.
Sorry?
I said Netherlands, maybe.
That's another. I'll tell you what. That's another really good shout. Actually, if you look at that Group A, Qatar, Ecuador, a Mane-less Senegal, and then Holland. I think that's a good. I've definitely got at the moment I've got Dumfries in my team, but I think just thinking of passing numbers, because I was a bit before I had a look at that Hub article and did a bit of research, I didn't think that passing bonus would be such a factor in international games, but it looks like it absolutely still is. So the likes of Van Dijk, I think, could just be really solid options.
I think just looking at it, there's loads of value in midfield. There's loads of value up front. There seems like tons of value at the back. This big at the back thing. I'm sort of debating 5 there, Tom. Like at
I
the
currently
moment.
have 5 for the record.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the final question was just asking us to explain the rules, which hopefully we did well enough at the start.
Yeah. You did. You
Well,
nailed it.
whatever. But yeah, that sort of covers it. Anything else you wanted to mention, mate, before we end the stream? We've done a good hour and a
I
half
think
there, so I think that's
if people
more than
haven't
enough.
fallen asleep, fair played. And I think it's given me some food for thought that, and I think we'll be back Friday for first drafts and potentially a little bit more info on a couple of the fixtures.
Yeah, definitely. We'll either record it live, depending on times, or just pre-record it and then release it later. But yeah, you should definitely see something Friday with us thinking about picking a team.
Yeah, sure.
All right, mate. Thanks for joining me. Thanks to everyone in the chat for chiming in and joining us, and everyone else that was watching. And if you're watching this back as well, thank you very much. Remember to like the stream if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the Golden Goal channel because we'll try and pump out as much World Cup Sky content as we can. And yeah, we'll catch you on Friday with another video.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys.
See you in a bit.